Okay, hi tubers and tubettes. My name is David. I live in Northern California and I'm trying out my new microphone today. I have high hopes that it's going to cut out a lot of road noise and maybe even a lot of the rain noise on the road because I like recording in my car. I have a lot of driving that I have to do. And this is a very convenient time for me to do it. It's kind of harder just to sit down in my office and do it. And I end up kind of bringing you along on my trips with me. So today what I wanted to talk about was I wanted to talk about these Filipino and Filipina relationships. I watched a video where an older guy, I think he was in his 80s, was going out with a 26-year-old, and I thought he had a really good attitude about it because a lot of times I hear guys on there and they're talking about how much their wives love them and that this is really true love and they've never had love like this and it's just such a different relationship than they ever had in America. But I think one of the faults of that, or the faults of thinking that way, is that you have the power in that you have the money. You're controlling the money. You're obviously not going to give, not every relationship, but you're not going to give them the full amount of money that you have and let them run it. I mean, unless you're getting to the point where you can't manage it. But it is about money for these younger ladies to want to be with an older guy. So this 80-year-old was talking on a video I was watching, and he goes, "Yep, we have a transactional relationship," meaning that most of these women over there, well, people in general all over the world, but over there especially because of the poverty, what they want more than anything is security. This guy's 80 years old. He has security. You know, he has a check coming from Social Security and maybe a pension or something like that. He didn't get into that, but he basically says, I have money and it's not a big deal. You know, I can easily afford to live in America, but living in the Philippines, I can afford it even better. And he liked the warm weather is the reason he was there. And he's with a 26-year-old lady. And so he has no like false belief that she's somehow really in love with him and wants to be with him just simply because he's such a great catch. No, she's with him because of the security that he can offer, and he's with her because of the beauties and the looks that she has. So it was really refreshing to hear somebody talk like that because on a lot of these videos that I watch with not just the Philippines but other countries and especially third world countries, a lot of these pensioners are trying to rationalize in their mind why these young women would want to be with an older guy. I mean, if you just approach it that it is transactional, I mean, how are you going to be disappointed if you run out of money and she ends up leaving? You know, the whole idea was that you would have money and you'd have an ability to take care of her. There was one that I watched quite a bit, Mark Thornton, and he went over there with basically $600 in his pocket, and he started a YouTube channel, and I think it was moderately successful. And then he ended up marrying a young girl. I think she's like 25, and she really, really, really wanted to have a baby. So they went ahead and had a baby. He even said he didn't want to have a baby because he already raised 2 kids, but the way he rationalized it is he said, well, we'll just try to do, you know, sex unprotected. And if we end up having a baby, then that's God's will. And they had a baby. And the baby had not even made it to a year, I think maybe 9 months. And Mark was a very strong personality. You know, Like, this is the way it's going to be, and this is the way it is. And so, you think, wow, this guy has some control. But then he ended up having a massive stroke and he died. And all of the beliefs that he had and opinions that he had and everything, they died with him. And then slowly, I've been watching the videos of his wife, now a widow, having to move out of the big house that he was renting. He didn't own a house. He was renting a pretty nice um, house right on the beach, and it seemed to be pretty inexpensive, like $350 a month. But that's what they go for. Maybe he had a little bit better deal than the average person because the quality of the house. But I was kind of wondering, how long is it going to be before she has to move out of that house? In my mind, I thought, oh, maybe she'll be there for 2 or 3 years. She'll have that kind of money saved up. But apparently, she doesn't have that kind of money saved up, and she needed to move out of the house pretty rapidly, I would say within a couple of months. And where did she end up going? Well, she doesn't have a job. Now she doesn't have a husband. Now she has a baby. So she moved back to her parents' house. And she was showing, a room that I guess it was her parents' room, and they're going to let her stay in that room. I don't know where they're going, but she did say that the bed had to leave the room because they needed to, that was their bed, and she was going to buy another bed. So apparently she has some money, and she's probably generating some money off of the YouTube channel. But I would really think that once you're not posting any videos, that your income on that goes down pretty rapidly. Even though she's trying to do some videos here and there, did some videos on the memorial. It kind of went big, because of they made a memorial for Mark. But it's really sad. It's very, very sad. When I watch it, it's almost like sad, pathetic, because she's talking about she needs to paint the room. There's a lot of things she needs to do to that room, because the room has a big hole in the floor where they took out some stuff, and it looks like layers of different concrete there. So obviously needs to have a new floor. And she's looking to hire somebody to paint the room. Uh, that didn't make sense to me either, because my wife and I, we painted a lot of rooms. We painted the interior of our house, which is really, really big. So I don't know why she can't paint them. But she has her little boy in there, and she's buying little knickknacks and stuff for him. But I can see where a lot of guys say that they don't want to be with a woman with a child because they don't want to have the responsibility of raising somebody else's child. And that's Mark's child. But he didn't have anything really set up for her. And it makes me feel different about him, because I think if you're going to be with somebody, especially young like that, don't worry about being in a fancy house, so it's impressive to your subscribers. I mean, you need to worry about what's going to happen if something happens to you. Now, it's ironic because he did have some videos about, expats dying in the Philippines, mostly because of medical conditions and the lack of medical services there. So it was weird that that's exactly what happened to him with the stroke. And I just think that it's ironic that it happened that way. And you feel really, really sad for his wife. It's kind of easy to see that she's not super educated. I think she was a waitress or something when he met her. But another person I had been watching on the YouTube channel in the Philippines was really talking about how a lot of these older guys, they want to be with really young women, like in their 20s, and single, and maybe uneducated. And I would just think, oh my God, that's exactly the opposite of what I personally would like to be with, because I've been with my wife for 36 years. She's highly educated. She's a senior paralegal. and she's super sharp. And that's what attracted me actually to her. I'm Japanese American, and my mother was a war bride from Japan. And she was 18 years old when she met my father and moved to America. And there was a lot of things that I could just tell as I got older, more after I was 18, that she just wasn't educated about. And her logic was really, it didn't make sense, the things that she would think. I mean, that's how she thought, that's how it was to her, but it was not logical. So I know one of the big turn-ons for me personally is an educated woman. I know there's a lot of men that are leaving the United States and they're going to other places because they think that the women here are just, don't need a man. And I hear that too, where they say they don't need a man. But I think the thing that we've created with men, that we have a lot of money and wealth. We've also done it with women. They have money and wealth. An interesting thing would be is to find somebody that's very young like that, a Filipino, let's say, with a 70-year-old guy, and then give her all the money. Send the money to her, and he doesn't have any money, and see how long that they stay together. I just don't think that they would stay together. It doesn't even make logical sense. If you want to take it to another extreme, say you're a 70-year-old guy and you're an expat, and you want to find a wife over there, but you can only look at wives that are 20 or 30 years older than you, like an 80-year-old. You're not going to want that. I mean, would not be turned on by that. But that's exactly what we're asking these younger women to do. So I saw some where there were women on talking about this, American women, and they were talking about how it's exploitation. And I mean, I kind of think they're right, because the ladies are uneducated, and they're desperate because of the poverty level there. I mean, you typically make about $36 a day, so it's pretty bad. And you get guys going over there with their pensions. They can barely, they don't have not saved any money or been through a couple divorces, and they're living pretty good over there for $1,500 to $2,000 a month. But a lot of American women look at it as exploitation of the women over there, and I have to kind of agree with them. I think that that's what's going on. But with this 80-year-old guy, it was a breath of fresh air to hear to somebody say, somebody of his age, that it's a transactional relationship. That's exactly what it is. He said, I know I'm not a catch at 80 years old, but she wants to be with me because I have security. And I want to be with her because she has beauty. And that's what, every man's dream, I guess, is to have a young, beautiful wife. But I don't know, for me personally, I would think I need to have somebody that's educated, that was more worldly, that knew about different things. And I don't think I could be with somebody younger than my kids. I think that would just be too weird. So my youngest son is 34 years old. So I just can't imagine saying, oh, here's your stepmom. She's 26, I'm with her because she didn't have any money. She was poor over there. And she's attracted to me because I have a pension. So that's the hard truth of what I think. And I could always be persuaded to look at it from a different angle. But the more they talk about it, the more they try to rationalize it and justify what they're doing, the more it seems like it is exploitation of a poverty country, third world country, whether it's the Philippines or Mexico or Vietnam or Singapore. That's kind of what it looks like to me. Anyway, thank you for looking, and I appreciate your time. Subscribe if you can. I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.